Lost in the ice fields, the wind howled across the frozen plains of Thalon Prime, cutting like knives through the air. Snowflakes danced in the storm, blinding anyone brave or foolish enough to be outside. Ray Carter, a human explorer, pulled his jacket tighter and pressed forward. His boots crunched over thick layers of ice. The cold was brutal, but he had faced worse on other planets. This was just another survival test. Ray was alone. His dropship had been damaged during landing. He had only basic supplies, a portable, shelter, and a sleeping bag for warmth. Still, he wasn't worried. He trusted his skills. He just needed to find cover before nightfall. Then, in the distance, something moved. Ray stopped. He narrowed his eyes and saw a shape, a figure stumbling through the snow. At first, he thought it was another human, maybe a stranded worker or explorer. But as the shape came closer, he realized it wasn't human at all. It was a girl. Small. Thin, wearing light, torn clothing that looked completely useless in this weather. Her skin was pale violet, her eyes large and glowing faintly blue. She had markings on her forehead and strange, delicate ears that curled like petals. She looked young, maybe a teenager, and she was shaking, every step weaker than the last. Ray rushed forward. "Hey, stop! You'll freeze!" he shouted through the storm. The girl looked up, eyes wide with fear. She didn't understand his words, but she understood his tone. She tried to run, but her legs gave out. She collapsed into the snow. Ray dropped to his knees beside her. Her lips were turning blue. She was freezing to death. "No. No. No. Stay with me," he muttered, pulling off his pack. He grabbed his thermal blanket and wrapped it around her, but it wasn't enough. Her body was ice cold, her breathing shallow. Ray cursed under his breath. There was no time to make shelter. He had only one option: his sleeping bag. He pulled it out, zipped it open, and carefully lifted the girl. She was light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Gently, he slid both of them inside the insulated bag. Body heat was the only thing that could save her now. She flinched as he held her. Her hands pushed weakly at his chest. Her eyes were filled with panic. She didn't know him, didn't trust him. "It's okay," he whispered softly. "I'm not going to hurt you. You'll die if you stay out here." She stared at him, breathing fast, her heart pounding. But then slowly she stopped resisting. Her body relaxed, just a little. She was too weak to fight, too cold to care. She closed her eyes. Ray held her close, careful not to move too much. The sleeping bag was tight, but it trapped their body, heat. He could already feel her skin warming slightly. He hoped it was enough. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, but Ray didn't sleep. He kept checking her pulse, her breathing, her temperature. He whispered quietly now and then, just to let her know he was still there. Then, just before dawn, something strange happened. She opened her eyes. They glowed brighter than before, and she reached out, placing her hand on his chest. Her touch was gentle, curious. Her lips moved. "Shall I? Kathra." Ray frowned. "What?" She blinked, then touched her own chest. "Vayari?" she said softly, voice cracked from the cold. Ray understood. "Vayari? That's your name?" She nodded weakly. "I'm Ray." He smiled. She didn't smile back, but her eyes softened. A moment passed between them, something quiet, something strange. He didn't know why, but it felt important. Suddenly her body shivered. She gasped, and a strange light pulsed under her skin, right where their chests were touching. Ray froze. What the hell? But before he could pull back, the girl's body glowed again and her hand gripped his shirt. Her breathing calmed. The storm began to fade, and Ray knew this was no ordinary girl. She was something more, and whatever just happened had changed everything. The strange glow ray didn't move. He stared at the soft blue glow beneath the alien girl's skin. It pulsed gently, like a second heartbeat, one that was somehow connected to his. Valerie, the alien girl, had her eyes half open. Her hand rested firmly on Ray's chest as if she was afraid he would disappear. The warmth from the sleeping bag had saved her body, but now something else was happening. Something he couldn't explain. Ray whispered, "What are you?" She blinked slowly. Her lips parted, trying to speak, but her voice was too weak. Ray reached into his side pouch, pulled out a nutrient pack, and opened it. It wasn't much, just a small energy bar, but he broke it and gently held it to her lips. "Here, eat. You need strength." Valerie hesitated. Then she nibbled, chewing slowly. Every bite seemed to bring a little more life back into her face. Her skin stopped shaking. Her eyes stayed open. Ray gave her water next, just a few careful sips. When she was done, she looked at him with a strange expression. She pointed to his chest, then her own, and then she traced a circle in the air. "What does that mean?" Ray asked. She hesitated. Then she said in a cracked voice, "Bound." "Bound," Ray repeated. "You mean bonded?" Valerie nodded slowly. Ray's mind raced. He remembered hearing about certain alien customs. Old stories about sacred touch, skin-to-skin contact that could create spiritual or emotional connections in some species. But those were myths, weren't they? Before he could ask more, Valerie's eyes widened. Her body tensed. A small red light blinked from under her shoulder. A beacon. Ray's stomach dropped. "That's a tracker, isn't it?" She looked down and nodded weakly. Ray cursed. If someone had been looking for her, and they saw the signal, they'd be here soon, maybe minutes, maybe hours, but they were coming. "Who's after you?" he asked. She looked outside at the stormy horizon and whispered a word that chilled Ray more than the snow ever could. "Hunters." Moments later, Ray helped Valerie stand. She was still weak, but stronger than before. Her eyes scanned the frozen land around them. She pointed toward the nearby cliffs. "Shelter. There," she said softly. Ray packed up fast. The sleeping bag, the thermal blanket, the emergency tools. He had no weapons, no comms, and no backup. Just one injured alien girl who now claimed they were bonded, and a warning that someone or something dangerous was on the way. They moved as fast as they could, Ray holding her up with one arm as they trudged through knee-deep snow. Wind still screamed, but the storm was starting to calm. As they reached the cliffs, Ray spotted a crack in the stone. A narrow opening. He led her inside, and stopped. Inside the cave were symbols glowing faintly on the walls. Strange writing, ancient designs. Valerie gasped, falling to her knees. "What is it?" Ray asked. She reached out and touched the wall. It lit up under her fingers, responding to her touch like a machine awakening after centuries of sleep. "This place," she whispered. "It's old, sacred. I didn't know it was real." Ray looked around. The walls seemed alive now. A gentle hum filled the air. Warmth, too. Not from fire, but from the stone itself. As if the cave was welcoming them. And in that moment, Ray realized, this girl wasn't just some refugee. She was special, and their bond had triggered something much, much bigger. Hunters in the storm. The storm outside had weakened, but the real danger was just beginning. Inside the glowing cave, Ray kept his hand near a sharp rock he'd picked up, his only weapon. Valerie sat by the wall, breathing slowly, her glowing skin still pulsing with soft light. The ancient symbols around her shimmered as if they recognized her presence. Ray whispered, "You said they're hunters. What do they want?" Valerie looked at him, eyes serious. "Not hunt, cleanse." Ray frowned. "Cleanse what?" She touched her chest. "Me." Ray's jaw tightened. "Why?" She took a long breath and said the words carefully. "I ran from match. Sacred bonding. Royal blood. I choose wrong. I choose you. Ray felt like someone punched him in the chest. Royal blood? Match? Sacred bond? You mean you're a princess or something? He asked. Bayari didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said enough, and now, because she had touched Ray, because she had bonded with a human instead of her own kind, she had become a target, a traitor. Suddenly, the sound of metal against ice echoed through the wind. Ray grabbed the rock and moved to the entrance of the cave. Through the snow and mist, he saw them, tall armored figures moving in formation. 4, maybe 5. Their armor gleamed silver and red. One of them carried a long staff glowing blue at the tip. Ray's heart pounded. They found us. He turned back. We need to move. Now. Bayari shook her head. They track by bond. No escape. Only choose. Ray blinked. Choose what? She stood slowly and walked to him, placing a hand on his chest. Hide, bond, or fight. Ray didn't understand, but then her fingers pressed over his heart. A warm burst of light flared between them. His skin glowed briefly, then dimmed. The connection vanished. Ray gasped, feeling empty. What did you do? Paused bond, she said. They will not sense me in you now. Okay, he said, catching his breath. Then we fight. Outside the cave. The lead hunter stopped. The blue light on his staff flickered. He growled something in an alien tongue. Signal weak. She hides. But she's close. They moved toward the cliffside. Their boots crushed ancient stones beneath them. Inside the cave, Ray was ready. He pressed against the wall, holding the sharpened rock like a dagger. Bayari had curled into the shadows near the symbols. Then, a flash of light. A hiss. Footsteps. The hunters entered. Ray didn't wait. He leapt from the dark, slamming the rock into the first hunter's neck. Sparks flew. The armor cracked. The alien roared, swinging wildly. Ray rolled and ducked, but a second hunter kicked him hard in the ribs. He flew back, groaning in pain. One of them raised the glowing staff, pointing it at Ray's chest. But before it fired, the cave walls exploded with blue light. Bayari stood, arms raised. The ancient symbols were burning bright now, and her voice rang out in a high chant. The hunters froze. Their armor glitched. One screamed and dropped his weapon, smoke rising from his suit. Ray watched, stunned. What are you? Bayari's voice became soft again. Chosen. The remaining hunters fled, retreating into the snow. Ray coughed, standing up slowly. That was incredible. But Bayari collapsed. He rushed to her side. Her skin flickered. Glow. Fading. I used too much, she whispered. Need rest. Ray picked her up gently and moved her to the warmest corner of the cave. He wrapped her in his jacket, then sat beside her. Through the entrance, the sun was rising. But Ray knew this wasn't over. If Bayari was royalty, and he was now part of her bond, even if paused, they'd be back. And next time, it wouldn't be just hunters. A cave of secrets. The storm outside had faded to silence, but inside the ancient cave, something deeper was waking up. Ray sat beside Bayari as she slept, her chest rising and falling slowly. Her glow had dimmed, but small flickers of light still danced beneath her skin, like fading stars under violet clouds. She looked peaceful now, but Ray could still feel the weight of danger pressing down on them. He looked around the cave. The strange glowing symbols on the wall still pulsed. They weren't just decoration. They felt alive. Ray stood and walked slowly along the cave wall. As he moved, the symbols glowed brighter. His hand hovered over them, not touching, just watching. One of the symbols began to shift. It changed shape. The symbol curved, then stretched, forming a shape that looked like a map, a glowing layout of tunnels beneath the ice. Ray's breath caught. This whole place is some kind of network. Suddenly, he heard a whisper, a soft hum in the back of his mind. Not in English, not in any language he recognized, but he could feel it. A voice, speaking to him. He turned toward the center of the cave. A circle of symbols lit up around his feet. Then, without warning, the floor lowered. Just a few inches. A secret platform. Ray stepped back, stunned. What the hell? The voice returned, louder this time, still gentle but firmer. Bond detected. Human key accepted. A section of the cave wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage lit with dim blue light. Ray hesitated. He looked at Vayari, still sleeping, still recovering. He grabbed a heat lamp from his pack, placed it beside her, then took a deep breath, and entered the passage. Inside the passage, the air was warmer here, dry. The walls were smooth, shaped by something long ago. Ray walked slowly, watching the blue lights ripple along the ceiling like flowing water. As he reached the end of the HFY tunnel, he stepped into a small chamber. In the center was a chair. Not just any chair, it was made of crystal and metal, with floating pieces that hovered in the air like puzzle parts. Around the chair, small glowing cubes floated slowly, humming with low energy. A large sphere hovered above it. Oh. Inside the sphere, a figure glowed softly. Ray stepped closer and realized the figure looked just like Vayari. Not exactly her, but similar. A clone? An ancestor? A hologram? The figure opened its eyes. It smiled faintly. "You are not of this world," the figure said, her voice echoing in Ray's head. Ray stepped back. "Who are you?" "I am Memory," she replied. "This place was built by the first queens of Vayari's line. It holds the knowledge of her people." Ray looked at the floating cubes. "Why me? Why did the door open for me?" The figure tilted her head. "Because you carry the bond. The old blood recognizes you now." Ray shook his head. "But I'm human." The figure's glow pulsed. "Yes, and that makes you dangerous." Back in the main cave, Vayari opened her eyes suddenly, heart pounding. She sat up, looking around. "Ray?" She stood, still weak, and followed the glowing trail. She touched one of the symbols. The secret wall opened, her eyes widened. "No." He went into the vault. In the chamber, Ray reached for one of the floating cubes. As his fingers touched it, images rushed into his mind: wars, kings, ancient ships, alien codes, bloodlines. His head spun. The glowing woman spoke again. "If you stay with her, the old laws will rise again. Many will want you dead, but others will bow." Ray let go of the cube, gasping. "I didn't ask for this." "No," she said, "but you chose to save her, and that changed everything." Suddenly, a warning siren echoed through the cave. The figure vanished. Ray turned and saw Vayari standing at the tunnel entrance, her face pale. "You touched the cube," she whispered. "Yeah," Ray said, still dizzy. "What did I do?" "You woke the throne," she said, her voice shaking. "Now they will know." "Who?" he asked. Vayari stepped closer. Her voice was soft, full of fear. "My family." The meaning of the bond. Ray sat by the crystal throne, still catching his breath. His mind buzzed with images from the floating cube. Wars, symbols, faces of people he'd never seen but somehow felt connected to now. Vayari stepped closer, her violet skin pale and tense. The glow beneath her skin flickered in short bursts like sparks from a dying fire. "You shouldn't have touched it," she whispered. Ray looked up at her. "I had to know. I needed answers." "You didn't. Just open memories," she said. "You awakened a call." Ray stood slowly. "A call to who?" She hesitated. Then in a low voice she said, "To my bloodline, my people, my father." Ray's eyes narrowed. "He's the one hunting you?" Vayari nodded. "Yes. And now he knows you exist." Suddenly, Her body shivered. She dropped to her knees. Her hands clutched her chest, gasping. Ray rushed forward. "Vayari," she shook her head. "It's the bond, I paused it before, but it's returning on its own." Ray knelt beside her. "What does that mean?" She looked into his eyes. "In my culture, the bond is sacred. Once formed, it grows stronger with time. It connects life, soul, even breath. If it's not accepted fully, the bonded begins to wither." Ray froze. "You mean you'll die?" Vayari nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "My body is already changing. I need your answer. Now." Ray looked down at her. This alien girl who had once been afraid to even touch him, now clinging to life by the thread of a connection neither of them had planned. He whispered, "Tell me what to do." She placed his hand on her chest, over her heart. "Say it. You accept that you won't break the bond." Ray's mouth went dry. Everything in him screamed that this was too fast, too alien, too much. But then he saw the fear in her eyes, the loneliness, the same fear he'd seen on her face in the snow. "I accept the bond," he said softly. "I won't break it." A sudden change. As soon as he spoke, her body glowed brighter. The shimmer under her skin returned, no longer flickering but alive. Her breathing steadied. But Ray felt something too. A warmth in his chest, like a second heartbeat, a pulse that wasn't his, but now lived inside him. He stumbled back, shocked. "What is this feeling?" Vayari stood, stronger now. "It's us. We are one now." Ray stared at her. "That's not just poetic, is it?" "No," she said. "It's literal." Moments later, the cave trembled. A loud mechanical sound came from above. Ray and Vayari looked up as the ceiling shifted. A panel opened. A beam of light scanned the chamber. A voice, deep, cruel, spoke through the air. "Vayari, you have shamed our line. Step forward and surrender, or the human dies." Ray's eyes widened. "They found us." Vayari took his hand. "No, they found you." Outside the vault, an alien ship hovered above the mountain. Dozens of armored warriors began to descend from ropes. Each one carried stun rods and energy weapons. In the distance, another ship approached. Ray didn't know who they were, but he knew what they wanted: to take her away, to kill him. Back in the cave, Ray stood beside her. "We can run." She shook her head. "They'll follow, always." He clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Vayari looked at him, eyes glowing fully now. "Then we fight as one. Captured and judged." The cave shook again. Dust rained from the ceiling. The voice of Vayari's father echoed like thunder through the ancient stone. Ray gripped her hand tighter. He could feel her fear. And something else. Anger. "I will not go with them," Vayari whispered. "Not after what they did. Not after choosing you." Ray nodded. "Then we stand our ground." But they didn't get the chance. In a flash, they came. A piercing blue light burst through the cave wall. A flash grenade. Ray turned to shield Vayari, but it was too late. Stunning electricity hit his back. His vision blurred. His knees hit the floor. He heard Vayari scream his name, once clearly. Then everything went black. Hours later, Ray opened his eyes slowly. He was shackled to a cold metal post in a large alien chamber. The room was circular, glowing red, lined with armored guards. The air was thick with silence and judgment. In the center stood Vayari, hands tied, head held high, eyes burning with fire. Beside her stood an older alien male, taller, broader, dressed in royal armor with a cruel expression. The Emperor, her father. "You bonded with a human," he spat. "This is an abomination." Ray struggled against his bonds. "She didn't force me. I chose." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You speak?" Ray glared. I fight too if I have to. The room went silent. Then the Emperor laughed, cold and sharp. Let us see how brave you are after judgment. He raised his hand. A hologram appeared. Images of sacred scrolls, laws, symbols. A glowing line of text read, unapproved bonding with off-worlders. Death by trial. Vayari gasped. No, the trial begins. 2 guards grabbed Ray and pulled him to a gate at the far end of the room. The door slid open, revealing a harsh ice arena, bare rock, snow, and strange spikes jutting from the ground. In the center stood a creature, massive, gray-scaled, 4 arms, 6 eyes, snarling. The old way, the Emperor said. Let the human prove his worth. Ray was thrown in. The door slammed shut behind him. He looked up at the roaring beast, his fists clenched. No weapon? He asked. One guard smirked through the glass. You are the weapon, human. Above the arena, Vayari slammed her fists against the glass. Stop this, he saved me. He gave me warmth when no one else did. Her father turned his back. Silence. If he dies, your bond dies with him, and you will return to your place. But Vayari was not the weak girl from before. She closed her eyes and called to the bond in the arena. Ray dodged a wild swing from the beast. He rolled, grabbed a rock, and struck the creature's leg. It barely flinched. His heart pounded. He couldn't win this with strength. He needed something more. Suddenly, a pulse in his chest. Warmth, the R-E, bond. He turned just in time to dodge the creature's claw and saw a flash of Vayari's eyes in his mind. Then something changed. His body moved faster, his limbs lighter, his balance sharper. The bond wasn't just emotional, it was giving him strength. Ray fought back, hard, blow after blow, dodge after dodge, until the beast finally dropped with a thunderous crash. Ray stood over it, panting. The arena was silent. Then, cheering, even. The Emperor looked surprised. Judgment Ray was brought back inside, limping but alive. The Emperor stared at him long, then at his daughter. She bonded with a human, he said quietly. And he won. The law could not be undone. The trial had been passed. Vayari was released from her chains, but the Emperor leaned close to Ray. You have earned her, but if you fail her again, I will end you myself. Ray met his eyes. You won't get the chance. From trial to freedom, Ray stood in the center of the royal hall, bruised, tired, and still breathing hard from the fight. Vayari stood beside him, finally free of her chains, her violet skin glowing with quiet strength. But even with the trial, overtension still filled the room like smoke after fire. The Emperor looked at them both. His eyes were hard, unreadable. You passed the test, human. You earned her life. Ray stepped forward. Then let us go. The Emperor shook his head. Not yet. He raised his hand and a crystal screen appeared in midair. On it, images of Ray and Vayari, holding hands, bonding, escaping through the storm. These were recordings taken by drones. Secret eyes had been watching the whole time. Your bond, the Emperor said slowly, has been seen by every noble family in our empire. Some now support it. Others want you both dead. Ray clenched his fists. So we're prisoners again? No, the Emperor said. You are something more dangerous now. Symbols. The offer Vayari turned to her father. What do you want from us? The Emperor looked at her with a strange softness. Rare, but real. Remain here. Let us declare your bond official. A union of peace between human and royalty. We will protect you, raise you both in the public eye. Ray frowned. Be your puppets. The Emperor didn't deny it. It's safety, he said. Ray looked at Vayari. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. She didn't want safety. She wanted freedom. That night, the halls were quiet. The stars outside shimmered over the alien city. Ray and Vayari stood on a balcony, looking out. She spoke first. We could stay, be safe, be rich, but never free. Ray nodded. I didn't come this far to be someone's trophy. She looked at him. Then we run, he smiled. Together. The escape just before dawn, Ray and Vayari slipped into the old vault under the palace. The same glowing walls, the same tunnels beneath the ice. But this time, Vayari knew where to go. She led him to a hidden dock, an old escape ship used by queens in ancient times. Ray blinked. "How do you know this exists?" She touched the ship. It lit up under her hand. "My blood remembers." They boarded the ship. As guards realized what was happening, alarms sounded. The Emperor himself ran to the edge of the cliff, but it was too late. The ship burst into the sky, flying fast, silent, and free. Weeks later, on a quiet forest moon far from royal space, Ray and Vayari built a small home from wrecked ship parts and local stone. It wasn't a palace, but it was theirs. They grew food. They walked under twin moons. They learned each other's languages. And, at night when it grew cold, they still shared the same sleeping bag. One night, as they sat by the fire, Ray looked at her. "Back on that icy field, I thought I was saving you." She smiled. "And I thought you were just warmth." They laughed. And in that laugh was a future.